Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, depending on where in the world you are. Welcome to Raising Excellence, one of the most valuable hours of your day. I'm Michael, the MCCC for today's adventure. Today's show, How Does Your Baggage Trip You Up? Continuing with our own Tim Flynn's Foundations of Self-Discovery. Be aware it's Wednesday. This is the heart of this week's focus. As mentioned on Monday's show, we're going to be looking into 10 cognitive distortions. But with that said, we've got a full house today. We've got 5 hosts with us today. And the first one I want to introduce to is Agnieszka, our psychosomatic illuminator.
Hello, everybody. Thanks. Nice to be here.
And Willow, our trauma consultant.
Hi, everyone.
And Dennis, our freedom facilitator.
Hey everybody, glad to be with you. Thank you.
And finally, Deidre, our development strategist.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. Real pleasure to have you all here. And I do want to remind everybody, the people that are listening live, if you have a question or a comment, feel free to throw it out there. We will try and answer it. But let's just start it off. How does baggage trip us up? Who wants to start the discussion?
Oh, before we start, I just want to welcome our number one fan, Christopher, who's raising hell in Raising Excellence.
Welcome, Christopher.
So, who's got baggage?
Well, I got some baggage, I'm sure. But the only way how my baggage is going to trip me is if I lose awareness of it and if I forget that it's actually there. Because if I'm there waiting for a train or trying to catch a plane and I'm aware of my baggage, then I'm gonna put it somewhere where I don't really trip over it. But if I get distracted and I forget.
Does that mean that you put all your negative experiences in a backpack and you put it on the front of your body and you pet it throughout the day so you don't forget it's there?
No. I'm over the years I have learned to pack my baggage carefully. So so I will have the small bag which is there, which can be useful, but as I said, if I lose awareness of that it's there, and if I get distracted by something else, then it might trip me over. So if I put it down, I put it down carefully, and then that's a way of
walk away
slowly.
Don't cause attention. Don't worry about that.
It's like fine. A bomb. Imagine if someone's all negative experiences are in one bag just sitting there on a train station. That would be like a bomb, like Pandora's box. You don't want to open that.
That's scary. That's just scary now.
Hey, you know what I wanted to talk about today? I wanted to talk about when to stop blaming our parents for the baggage that they've bestowed upon us.
Ooh. That's a hard one, especially if you have a childhood trauma, because there's a lot of baggage to let go of that. If you don't have the right person to tell you the right thing at the right time, it doesn't make sense.
And walk away slowly.
What about changing the perspective? Because, well, I've come across people that have been through really bad things in terms of with their parents, but then some of them, and sometimes it's even siblings, so sometimes one of the siblings will get totally worn down by the experiences and use it as an excuse for everything that goes bad and for everything that he or she can't achieve in life. But then sometimes the other sibling who went through the same exact experiences is taking those experiences as how to not do it and how to do it better or how to do it differently. So I think it's the perspective and how we look at things and how we relate to them that will make all the difference.
So can we come up with an age like 17 and a half, and then that's when we stop blaming our parents? 23?
I don't really think there's an age, because the way I see it is, this is going to sound horrific to a lot of people, and it's all hypothetical, but imagine you're a child and your parent hurts you in a way. So let's just say they stab you and you have a hole, and you can blame them for that for a while because they're the one who stuck the hole in you. But eventually, like, once you're out of their house and they're not stopping you from fixing it anymore, you can't keep running back to your mom's house or your dad's house or whoever's house hurt you and say, you need to pay for this to be fixed. You need to fix it. You need to sew it up. You need to clean it. You need to look at it and make sure, because that's what they were supposed to do and they didn't. So it does almost feel like taking on responsibility for that, saying this wound that I have in my body is because of you, but I'm responsible for fixing that. That's, you almost grieve. You have a moment of grief where you're like, this should never have happened to me. I shouldn't have to fix a hole in my body that I didn't put there. But it is what it is. And are you going to just wander around bleeding all over people, or are you going to go seek some help?
This is where the tribal kind of solution to problems is one in which I think it really does solve a lot of problems, because these are really resolved with rituals. You know, the tribe recognizes the individual's effort to like ascribe to be the adult, and when they've, whatever the task is that they essentially agree to, it's like everybody recognizes that you've passed into this next stage. And so now you don't get to be a child anymore. You're now a total adult, or you're responsible for whatever it is you're doing. You know, so like
hang on a
that is
second.
one in which
Michael,
I think
is there a way you can turn down your microphone just a wee bit? It's a little bit like echoey and the high notes.
let's see what I can do.
Thank you.
While you're doing that,
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's getting better.
I was going to mention, someone said to me one time that the only rite of passage, because I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, like a rite of passage where you pass into the next stage. The only rite of passage that we really have as a culture, at least in the United States, I'm sure that's different in other places, is trauma. That's like the biggest thing that people have to get over, and it's not even recognized as something to get over. It's like a pebble in the middle of the pathway and the kid's screaming because it's in their way.
Yeah, we have some comments from the listeners here. Chris McMillan has moved on to blaming his friends. Now he blames Willow for trauma that her and Kurt have not visited him. And
bring it on.
And Martin is saying that we should let go of those. It's only time to let go of those once you've gotten rid of all the voices in your head and you know that the last voice is yours. And when does that happen? How do you know that the last voice in your head is yours?
Well, according to IFS, that's not possible because there are multiple voices. So if you're down to one voice, you've exiled all the other ones. And that ties me into what I was going to say about the whole being tripped up by baggage. The biggest one is having really negative feelings towards those parts, towards the part that makes you want to drink at 10 o'clock in the morning, the part that makes you want to, start a confrontation with your neighbor because you don't like the way they treat their animals, or go off on your mom because she's not supportive enough or said the wrong thing. Those blowups will happen, or the reaction will happen, and then it's followed by I shouldn't have been like that. That's unacceptable. And you push that part farther into the back of the closet to where they're just exiled, and no one wants to have a conversation with you if you're not like okay with yourself. Everyone knows that, like, you're not happy.
Can you tell us more about IFS? Like, how does that work? How do all the parts live? Like, so there are all these people that live inside my head and they're all arguing with each other all the time, and that's normal. Is that what you're telling me?
Pretty much. It's pretty much validating the voices in your head. And what it is saying, this is actually not through IFS, but it's a reference that I heard.
First of all, what does IFS stand for?
The internal family system model. And it's basically the assumption that all of your emotions that make you up and your actions are individual parts. So the best example I could find of this was an article called The Salad, the Cookie, and the Self. And it was saying that everyone has a self, and that is the root of who you are. It is you. Self doesn't care about the cookie or the salad. It doesn't care that the salad is supposedly healthier and the cookie is supposedly bad. If it wants the salad, it wants the salad. And if it wants the cookie, it wants the cookie. But then there's other parts who come in and say, no. You've had too many cookies. You put that cookie down And for the love of God, go eat a salad. And then there's the other part that's like, but we always eat salad and I don't want to eat salad. I want ice cream and I want cookies and I want a snack. These are all different. It's like an internal family. It's like these parts are like your little brothers and your little sisters and your parents and aunts and uncles. It's simulating how a family was supposed to show you how to deal with confrontation, basically. How you deal with being upset because you didn't get the food that you wanted that evening, and what does that truly mean? Because the lessons that children learn as children are a lot more profound than what you think. They're a lot smarter than what the average person just takes them for.
Yeah, so if I didn't get to eat a cookie and I got a salad instead, what I would say it was because they didn't like me and I was a slave to the system, and I would just have to wait until I got on my own and I'd have all the cookies I wanted and I'd show them. Jerks.
I read an article about obsessive behavior with children, specifically about candy. And it surprised me because their technique was the more obsessed the child is with the candy or the treat item, the more they integrate it into their daily meals. They do not try to take it away until they're just like, because that increases the obsession. They're like, I know that I want this candy and now I can't have it. So every time I see it, I'm going to be like, that's what I want. I want that. And I'm going to get it at any cost.
So they would just give the kid the candy after each meal or something?
And they'd give it with the meal. But they'd make sure it was appropriate size portion so that if all they eat is the candy, they're not going to get full. So It's not like giving in and just giving them candy every night before they go to bed because that's all they'll eat. It's more, if you want candy, if you want this thing, you can have it. Let's figure out how I can help you get this in a healthy way that's not going to like ruin everything else.
What if the obsession is with something, that's not healthy, not even in small doses?
So I think it was The Body Keeps the Score. I feel like I'm a parrot. I'm like, in The Body Keeps the Score, but it's a fascinating book.
My 3-year-old is addicted to cigarettes. What do I do?
Yeah. Well, the example that I think of was this girl who was self-harming. She was cutting, and all the previous therapists had made her promise that she would not harm herself. And what that did was she didn't consciously harm herself, but she showed up the next day, the session, with a huge gash on her forehead, and she had tripped and fallen into something and just like mutilated half her face.
Hey, Agnieszka,
and
are you
the
there?
therapist finally like threw himself back in the chair and was like, I can't win. I don't know how to help you. Why are you doing this? What is it? What do you gain from this? And as soon as he started asking that questions, this part, you can see it on their faces, the clients, their whole face, it's like a different person. You see this part come out, you see them take control, their whole facial expression changes. And she said flat out, because if I didn't, she would lose control.
Hey, Lawrence.
And I had to explain to a friend today, we were talking about a mutual friend and how worried we were for her because of her situation, and she seems like she's regressing. And I had to remind my friend that maybe she's not regressing. Maybe she was never she wasn't at this point. Maybe she was like farther back here and she's trying to stay at that point. So
doing well. I just jumped in here
is if she's not doing this bad behavior, she's going to be doing something way worse that may be even more detrimental. So there's this gray area of accepting that something that is short-term or long-term unhealthy can be short-term useful. I wouldn't say productive or efficient or even a good healthy option, but it allows the organism to survive.
And so it's like I like that answer, and I like how that really is about acceptance, right? It's accepting what is in the moment, because there is the desire for something, and the easiest way to I guess get rid of the desire is to fulfill it. So once you have what you had, then you're at a point where if that needs be, then okay, let me fulfill that desire, and then move forward from there, and then maybe by getting that desire fulfilled, whether it's candy or something else, that will bring you into a mental state where you can look at yourself and say, okay, I had what I wanted, and how do I feel right now? While otherwise you would be stuck in the same, oh, I want, I didn't get, I didn't get it.
No.
Actually, sorry, go ahead.
When we had our session, so the way that I understood the internal family system was that it's like if my emotions had their own personality, that's what it is kind of the more aggressive side. Kind of what did you say? I can't remember what you said now. Kind of bury it.
Yeah, exile.
Am I understanding that right?
Yeah,
exile it. So I'm understanding that right.
Okay. The reason I phrase it that way, as if it is the emotions who are the parts, it makes it easier for my clients to visualize it. So I could be like, hey, do you have a feeling, an emotion, a sadness or anger? Those are the two most common ones. I can be like, okay, well, if you imagine that as a person, how does that look to you? And that goes into a different kind of therapy of like, where are these people in relation to you? Are they standing over top of you? Can you get close to them? Like all of this matters in our mind because this ties into another therapy about where they'd have the individual sit in a room and they would witness and they'd say, I am witnessing that you have a lot of tension in your body right now, because a lot of times we can't see it. We'll just be like, no, I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine. I'm really happy right now. And then you get more mad because you're like, why do you not believe me? So they will be like, I'm witnessing that your face is getting very like tight and angry and your shoulders are, sinking in. And they will ask them, do you want a human support person, basically? And a lot of them will say yes. And they'll say, okay, pick out your support person. And they'll pick it out. They'll pick the person out, and they will then ask them to place their picked out person in the place that they want them, around them. And usually the first person, I think it's the right hand side. I think that goes down to like your right hand man. They have them sit almost like diagonal, not quite behind, but not quite beside, just kind of like they've got your back. They're there for support. And a lot of times the next person will go here, and then they'll pick out I say real with quotation because it's the person who represents the real version of their parents. And those people, they'll have them read a script of all, the things that hurt them that they said. And then they'll pick out their ideal parents and have those people come and stand in places. And the client will know instinctively where they want these people so that they feel confident. And you can see their whole body language changes. They're like, all right, I got my people behind me. I can handle this. And it's a reorganization of, oh, I am safe. I have people who believe me. I'm in a secure position, and now I can assert my agency over the situation, which is something that anyone in a violent situation, that option is taken away from you.
That's cool. It's interesting because when I quit smoking cigarettes, I did that by being allowed to smoke one cigarette a day. So that would be that gradual giving myself what I want and then taking away. But that's really cool. I love learning about all you guys' different modalities and all the things that you teach.
All right, let's move on to the 10 cognitive distortions, because I think this is going to be one in which the audience is really going to get a chance to really kind of see how their baggage is impacting their lives and the people around them, because they're probably going to see a lot of these things in their lives and the people around them are doing. So I was thinking just go ahead and read like 2 of them at a time, and then we can discuss them, and then we'll go to the next 2. Go ahead.
I had a question about it because I started reading the article. Are these cognitive distortions specifically for people who have experienced PTSD, or is it kind of like all-encompassing?
I think this is an all-encompassing kind of thing, more about in a general sense, but
it could be exaggerated in people with PTSD.
That's kind of what I was thinking, because when I was looking through them, I was like, a lot of this is really conducive with PTSD, CPTSD, any kind of mental illness as well.
So let's get to the first two. The first one is called mental filtering, and an example is the person that focuses on the negative. And the second, jumping to conclusions, an example being making irrational assumptions. Let's hit on those first two.
There's an example in one of the IFS trainings about how mental filtering is basically when you don't get the job that you thought you were going to get. The first thing that comes to mind is, oh, I didn't deserve it. And then the second, a lot of exiles will come up and they'll be like, well, you don't deserve it because you're worthless. And that's actually like, boom, boom, number one and number two. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't get this job because I'm not good enough. Well, you're not good enough because you're worthless. Like, you jump to that conclusion.
A lot of people struggle with the feelings of worthlessness. It's a very common thing, self-worth, and it's like at the core of us. So it's just a matter of facing it and being able to face our own feelings about ourselves and understanding how inappropriate it is to feel worthless.
Yeah, I think in a lot of situations when you put people together to work together, you'll find that there are certain people that are always looking for other people's flaws. And they won't be happy until they find something screwed up, and then as soon as they find it, they're I knew it. But that's a perfect example of mental filtering.
If you have a preconceived idea, you will always find the evidence of it. Like, even fabricate evidence of it, because people who are looking for evidence will find it.
Wouldn't that be jumping? That would be jumping to conclusions, because if you're looking for evidence that supports your idea and then you end up like stretching it a little bit because you're like, that's why they call it like what's the word? That was a stretch. I guess I can't remember the phrase. A long shot, maybe that's.
Yeah.
Oh, I think jumping to conclusions could be a lot of different things. Like essentially, oh, I see you wore that red shirt today. You knew I hated red.
That's a really good perspective, because I think I don't want to say we. I think that's a pretty common thing to go out in public and you're driving around and someone cuts you off and you're like, well, you know what? That person's an asshole. Maybe they're not, maybe they're have a pregnant lady in the back of the car and they're on their way to the hospital and they didn't have time to check to make sure that, but none of that crosses my mind. And, or student drivers, have you ever noticed how your mood changes when you see a driver in front of you and you're like, what the hell is wrong with these people? Why are they not following the rules? Why are they not, they're impeding the flow of traffic? And then you see that student driver just learning, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, honey, it's okay. We're gonna, help you out here. Like,
that is not my experience when I was a learner driver. It's almost just like learner driver, bruh, I can just hauling past, and oh my gosh, what's wrong? Getting angry at me? No, that was my experience as a learner driver. It's like, draw it in, assholeness. Come here.
I don't know. I learned how to drive in Victoria, but I started driving for real in Calgary, and people were so nice. So nice.
I didn't start learning to drive till I was 18, and my boyfriend taught me to drive.
Before we get off on a tangent, we get to the next two.
we need an adult. We need an adult.
So number 3 is personalization. Taking, like, a person that takes the blame for anything that goes wrong. Number 4, black and white thinking. An example, you're either with us or you're against us.
That's a fallacy too, isn't it?
They're all they're
all fallacies. Yeah.
You can find them in the logical fallacies. The defining parts of them are the same.
Personalization.
Does anybody see any of these happening in their particular life or in examples around them?
My parents sometimes wanted to blame me for everything that went wrong. Is that the same?
Well, I don't think that is the same, but I think the lesson learned may be, because if, say, there is a situation where someone is upset with you for something that you did or didn't do or misunderstanding, if your first reaction is, I do everything wrong, I'm worthless, you're making it personal. If your first reaction is, man, this person sounds like they're having a hard day, maybe they're not understanding me, maybe I'm not communicating to myself well, then you're not really taking it personally. You're just like, oh, this is happening. What can I do? I used to do I make everything really personal, especially if I had a really good day, despite being really erratic and I got all the things done that I was supposed to. If my husband would come home and he didn't have a good day, or he was even mildly like not thrilled, basically, I would take it personally and I would think that it was because of me. Um, yeah, it took me a long time because we would get into arguments about financial stuff, general, couples stuff. And I had just quit my job and was focusing on my own personal counseling business, and I was really insecure about it, and I kept thinking that our arguments would be resolved if I just quit this and went to go get a real job. And that seemed to make it even worse. I was blown away. I was like, I'm trying to fix the problem. What's going on? And I of course, it ended with me breaking down, crying, and being like, that's the problem. I think that I am the problem. And I take everything so personally because you can't be the problem all the time. It's just not possible.
I think I have for the whole black and white thinking. So I think I've been able to deal with that pretty well. In kind of standing back and even like in extreme situations, being able to, switch my perspective. And although, I would feel the pain of something terrible happening in the moment, but I could also, switch my perspective or like project myself 5 or 10 years ahead, and then, see myself how I look back at that situation and maybe find some clues or something, like some lesson in it. So it doesn't mean to not recognize or to not feel, maybe the pain or to lose the discernment of what is good and what is bad, but it just means to be able to, take out yourself out of a situation and look at it from different perspectives and see, well, maybe this was meant to happen for a reason that I can't see right now. And to recognize that there's good and bad, that there is day and night, that every coin has two sides to it. But and it wouldn't be complete without it. So in order for us to appreciate joy and to appreciate the sunlight and the day, there has to be night. Otherwise, if it was only going to be joy all the time, it was only going to be sun all day, then we wouldn't even know or realize that it's there, because there would not be anything else to compare it to.
Yeah.
I found the hardest with the black and white kind of thinking comes up when I've been actually hard done by, when I've done absolutely nothing to cause something. So something's happened. Somebody's been in a bad mood, and I haven't done anything to do it, and I've copped the bad back end of that. I find it really hard not to get that black and white thinking that, oh, okay, I need to kind of step back because I'm feeling really angry. I want redemption, because they, depending on the level of what they've done, and holding that emotion at bay, that's hard.
Yeah, that's true.
That's really hard.
I enjoy taking a view of, even if I don't have anything to do with the situation, or I can't see myself how I brought it about, I enjoy the idea that, I still am responsible for everything. Even if I didn't know the person, even if I'm just walking to my life, or the guy who sits next to me on the bus, so, whatever it is, or something completely random, it seemingly, I enjoy the notion that, oh, what if I was directly responsible for every little thing that happens to me in every day? Like what if I, on some kind of level, or even just to hold the idea, what if I brought this about for me? What's the lesson to be taken from that? What is the viewpoint, that what would be constructive, what would be helpful right now? How can I position myself to grow with it? And, instead of, would it be to get entangled and to kind of, be vexed about it and to be angry about it? And is that the best, position that I can take, or is there anything else that I can learn? And how can I grow with that situation?
I was gonna say, I really agree with what you said, Deirdre, about how, like, when you're angry, you just get that, like, the black and white thinking. For me, it manifests as when I'm angry and I know that I have done nothing wrong, feeling like I either can or I am allowed and my anger is righteous in a way, or feeling like my anger is completely unwarranted. There is no in between. And
but I thought the rule was 50-50. In every argument, the fault is 50-50.
I don't like that rule either.
It's the rule.
Sometimes it's 60-40.
No, it can't be. It
Sometimes
has to be 50-50.
Yeah, sometimes it's 90-80. Yeah.
You're just imagining it.
It's
just
more
50-50.
important for the other person. And I'm just listening, but I'm copying the anger.
I feel like the 50-50 is also kind of black and white thinking. It's like half of it feels this and half of it feels this, because it's not always the same way. It's totally different when, say, or I can't even think of an example, but there are certain situations where you know that you're more in the wrong than the other person versus, oh, maybe they're more in the wrong, but maybe I could do something to help that out. Maybe I didn't handle the situation better, or I'm completely right and this person is just crazy.
But hang on. Because if one person's in the wrong and the other person is not in the wrong, they'll be like Mike. Like, I imagine arguing with Mike. Mike, let's do a role play. I want to argue with you. Oh my God, Mike, I can't believe you did that. You're such an asshole. What did you do?
Calm down.
Calm down has never calmed anybody down. Who says calm down? No one has ever calmed down after people say calm down. No, but like, he's so cool and collected, right? And he doesn't play that game. So if he doesn't pick up the energy, then he can't participate in the argument. He can just sit aside. And that makes it a one-sided argument. My first husband used to say, sounds like a you problem, not a me problem.
And I would respond with, I thought I married a partner that's going to help me out with my problems.
No, I didn't. Hence why he's single now.
Okay. Number five is catastrophizing, blowing things out of proportion. I mean, this is definitely a teenager thing. And number 6 is overgeneralization.
Oh, I have catastrophizing. Well, I don't know which one it is.
Making broad generalizations. Go ahead.
So you didn't take out the garbage, and that means you don't love me, and you've never loved me. Ever. The last 7 years have been a sham.
When you're frustrated and you know that, like, so my husband always takes out the trash and say, I actually don't remember when the last time he didn't take the trash out. But say it's like, 2 times in a row and I'm having a really bad week and I come home and I'm like, you know what? You never take the trash out anymore. I'm like, that's not true. You just took the trash out last week. What are you talking about? And that just adds more frustration to the conversation. I've noticed that once I've started to try and take the always and the nevers out of, especially when I'm talking about someone else's behavior, and I try very hard not to talk about other people's behavior. I really embody the I statements. I am feeling upset because, maybe I'm feeling upset because of something you did, but I very rarely, I try really hard not to say, you're making me feel this way. You're doing this, and that's why.
That's because doing that is attacking. You're attacking them.
And they can't really make you.
And saying it's their fault.
Yeah.
Well, let's say, for example, you can't find your keys and you're going to miss an appointment, and you drive yourself into a circumstance where you're just you're basically losing your mind because you think you're going to miss this appointment, and someone says to you, you can cancel an appointment, it's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. And then all of a sudden they realize, okay, no big deal.
Not for me, because the second thought is, why do I always do this? Why am I like this? And it like spirals down into the mental filtering and the jumping to conclusion. It's like I bounce around the whole thing.
Well, sometimes the kids, hide the keys or something like that.
So when to stop that, I have like a spare set of keys that only I know where it is.
Yep.
So it's like I've got an appointment, and I know that I have an appointment. All right, I'm just grabbing my spare set. I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
I've had it happen too many times.
Dennis, I cut you off. Go ahead. You were going to say something?
Oh, I don't even know. I was going to say something profound. Forget it.
Dennis, I was saying Dennis. I cut you off, Dennis.
It's like, what if whatever somebody else is doing, whether you label it as good or bad or right or wrong, what if we could take the perspective that he or she is just acting in to his or her best ability in that moment, and just accept that, whether we think, oh, this is totally wrong or this is totally right, but because all the much of the trouble that you were just describing is based or is rooted in the fact that we have expectations to other people. For them, they should act like we think it's the best way to act, which is crazy in a way too. Like, we are expecting everybody else to act and to see things the way we see it. But then if we really look at our own views, at our own beliefs, as we mentioned last, then those are continuously changing. We don't have the same views, like even last week, much less 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So how would you expect other people, to be on our current perspective of life? So to accept that, everybody around us, maybe even if it's the most crazy behavior, but they're acting to their own, best ability, even if it's totally crappy and it doesn't match like our worldview and our perspective at all. But they're just doing what they think is best for them at that moment. And then we just have to retain our ability to then associate or disassociate ourselves, or from the person or from their behaviors. That it doesn't mean that we lose discernment in terms of what is good and what is bad, and what fits in, what aligns with our worldview or our morals and our behavior. But it means to just, again, accept that he or she is acting the way they act, because that's just where they are right now in life. And then what can we do from our position in order maybe to help them or to make them see things differently.
One thing that trips me up about those, like, dealing with those specific situations, is seeing people who I know, or I think I know what they're going through, and I see them doing the same things that I did, but they don't want to listen, or they'll try to listen, but they're not really retaining the advice you're trying to help them. So you're actually trying to help them bypass this really awful part of being a person, and help them out. But
they have to live through it themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, I was also like, you also have to keep yourself in check, because I will watch people who are very and I don't mean this in a bad way, but they are adults and they are very, very childish. And sometimes, especially with girls who want to use the I'm so pretty, I'm so cute, and do the doe eye look, where they're just like, I don't know what's going on, and please help me. I understand that technique. I understand where it comes from, and I
It's
get
a good one.
But there is a certain point where there were certain people that I decided not to use that technique around, because I wanted to get better and be, I was like, these people don't use this. They don't rely on stuff like this. So I have to hold myself back from being like, you shouldn't do that. You should do something better. And it's like, you know what? I did the same things, and if someone hadn't have provided me with a better option, I would still be playing that stupid, dumb, doe-eyed deer in a headlights look girl.
But you know what?
With children,
it's
right?
great for authority figures. I just wanted to say it's great for authority figures. Sorry,
yes.
officer, I didn't know.
Yes, yeah.
That's a crosswalk.
Then it's
right. Even in terms of for children as well, because then if you tell them, don't put your hand on the stove, it's hot, and then it's up to them really. They can believe you and they can learn the lesson just through your words and through your experience, but maybe they also have to make the experience and have to experience what it means to be hot for them to learn the lesson. And then you can want to help and you can give them your experience and tell them and try to show them. But if they need to make a certain experience, of course, as parents, we have to make sure they don't get run over by a truck or so. But still, you have to recognize that some people, they have to make the experience, and that's their right also in life, right, on their path to make the experiences that they need to make in order to progress. And sometimes just by telling them or just by giving them a book or giving them advice, that's not going to do it for them, because they need a different they need a real life experience for them to get the lesson to move on.
I heard this story a couple months ago about a father who was walking with his 4 or 5-year-old daughter, and she was walking up on a ledge that got like steady higher and higher. Eventually he was like, hey, if you jump off that ledge, you're going to fall and you're going to hurt yourself. It's just going to hurt really bad. And all the other parents were like, oh my gosh, why are you not going and getting her down? Why are you not telling her to get down? Why are you not making your child do what you think they should do? And he said, because I've built a strong enough relationship with my daughter that whenever I tell her if she jumps down off of that, she might hurt herself. My daughter trusts me enough that I'm not going to lie to her, and I'm not going to try and keep her from doing something that she wants to do so that she has to hide from me. She's going to believe me when I say that's going to hurt, because she knows that I actually just don't want her to get hurt.
Okay, continuing on with our 10 cognitive
I like that.
list.
I like that. That was good.
Number 7, labeling, generalizing because of a particular situation or behavior.
Oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist.
Shoulding or musting. You know that one, huh?
You shouldn't shit on yourself.
Ooh, shootings and mustings. They're very prominent figures. Musting. That's a weird word to say.
They're musty, both of them.
Should, would, and could is not really of this reality, right? It describes something that's not real. That's, it's really just hot air. Should, would, and could don't really exist.
Well, in IFS, the should, would, and could are, I want to say that they're very similar parts, if not like the same part. But the should is actually a motivator. It's the one who says, you really should work out. You really should do this. These are all the things you want to do. This is how you get them done. And a lot of people's motivators take complete control, and they'll be like, you should do this. You should do that all the time. And eventually they're just like, okay, well, I should, but I didn't. So what are you going to do with that?
Well, I think this is in general how the baggage applies to our judgment on other people. And in that case, like when you're saying that they should be doing this, it's more than likely a judgment that's based upon your own criteria versus what theirs is.
See, I have a different opinion to woulds, coulds, and shoulds. I use it in a way to build connection. I don't use it in a way to attack. I use it more in a way like, instead of going, well, duh, you shouldn't have done that. I use it in a way that goes, hey, I need some help. Maybe we should give each other a call sometime. This is just a different way to use it. I don't use it in an attacking way. I use it in a way to build connection.
I noticed I did that too. I wanted to avoid telling people what to do. And so I'd get in the habit of saying we should, even though my big flaw was sometimes it wouldn't actually be a we. It would be I'm actually saying that you should do this, but I'm going to say we. And then when you do it, I'm like, we did a great job.
I've replaced those 3 with let's. So it's either let's or let's not. And that's all there is.
Yeah, but see then for me it's allowing the other person to make the judgment call. Because I know what I need to do and I can communicate as best as I can to get help. But I can't say just let's do that, because I feel like that's still too demanding on somebody.
Why? It's a call to action. It's like, let's take the city.
But I know what I can do, but I'm in the process of finding out that if we can do this together, it's rather than kind of demanding that expectation is already there. I'm kind of throwing the ball in your court and going, I really need to do this, but I can't without you. Could you help me? And I throw the ball at you and you kind of go, well, yeah, actually I can do it, or not today. You throw it back. I
think I agree with that. I think just throwing it straight out there as in like, you should do this without adding well, maybe this is something that should be done. It is more telling. I think it triggers the black and white thinking, because it triggers your brain to say, well, if I should be doing that, then I'm not doing what I should be doing. And that's a hard thing for people to accept, that they're not doing what they should be doing. And maybe what they should be doing or should be doing isn't actually helping them. I can't tell you how many times I despaired because I should be able to spend a day like an average person, and should be able to wake up at 8 o'clock and not be exhausted. I'm sleeping 10 to 12 hours a night and I'm still exhausted. Like I'm getting 6 to 4 hours of sleep. For a long time, it'd make me really upset because I'm like, I should be able to do more than go to jiu-jitsu class and then talk to someone on the phone without feeling like I'm going to pass out. But
don't you feel that the fact that you're not doing it means that you should not be doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, perfectly well. I have no argument to that.
Absolutely.
One of the things that nobody mentioned, labeling. Boy, I tell you, there's a lot of labels out there. All kinds of labels.
I mentioned it. I said you're just a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. You have to read the labels though, so you know what you're getting.
I'm just joking.
Labeling
I don't use
happens.
words like that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go again.
I was gonna say labeling happens a lot with trying to assess the world after trauma, because you're always trying to put a label on that man that's walking towards you, or the small kid that looks like they could probably sneak their hand in your purse, or just you're always on guard for these little things that can pop out, and it can cause you, especially if you get the reaction of two people are talking about a traumatic experience and then the other people in the room, they don't know what to say, so they do one of these because they don't know how to engage in the conversation. That right there can
What?
And it's based in the past, right? Like it's
Yeah.
based in labeling is based in past experiences, and it's also part of the fight and flight, because you're trying to survive, you're trying to make decisions based on past experiences, that increase your ability to survive and that to get through situations. But then again,
Yeah.
if the goal is to to not continuously be stuck in fight and flight, but in rest and digest, then if you would be like in the moment, then you wouldn't have to label based on past experiences, but then you could make a decision based on what you observe right here and right now.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Deirdre?
What about good labeling? Like, I need to label you if you're happy. Oh wow, she's happy today. Or oh wow, something's quite not right. I'm hearing a bit of sad in her voice.
Well,
That can also
we're talking
be
about
in the moment, right?
distortions. We're talking about distortions. So labeling based on distorting reality rather than labeling based on.
I've got something that adds into that though, because I've noticed, especially for me, I had to stop talking about a lot of my trauma with not that I would just randomly talk to anybody, but most of my friends know everything. I'm a pretty open person, and I didn't realize that was to my detriment, because I attract people who have also been through the same things, and they're not at the same place that I am. So a lot of them will want to continuously talk about all of the bad things and negative things. And because I have already labeled them as one of us, someone who understands, and I've labeled them as a source of comfort because it is comforting to talk about things with people who understand, it kind of distorts the actual, like, being able to see red flags, seeing them go down a path that you're like, I've been down there and I know exactly why you're going down there and why you think there's something at the end of that tunnel. But if you don't want to trust me, you got to walk that way and I got to walk this way. People don't necessarily see those red flags. They think that, this person's going down this dark hallway that I've already been down and I know what's down there. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe they know something I don't. I'm going to follow them because it's comfortable to be with them. So you can mislabel good feelings just as easily as you can mislabel negative ones.
And it's also for the ego, because the ego likes things that are familiar, and it thinks things that are unknown, unfamiliar, are dangerous. So for the ego, it would be more safer to go down the dark hallway in the mistake that you did before than to a new place where new things might happen that could be dangerous, because it knows you already survived the dark place, so you can survive it again.
Yep.
All right, the last two, emotional reasoning, interpreting the present based upon one's current emotion. And then number 10 is magnification and minification, magnifying others and minimizing self.
Oh, I have an example of emotional reasoning. Journaling makes me feel like I'm in jail.
Okay.
For a lot of specifically sexual assault victims, this happens a lot during intimacy because their bodies will literally be reacting as if someone is violating them, and they are mentally there while they're trying to remind themselves of who they're with, where they are, what's going on. And sometimes that it doesn't matter. It it's it's like, okay, you know that who you're with and you know where you are, but that's not changing anything. So a lot of people learn to label that situation as at the very least something that they should avoid.
A lot of people have a negative experience and then want to avoid it. Like, oh, that didn't work out for me last time, so I can never do it again.
I don't think that's I'm not going to say it's an uncommon reaction. Um because there's a lot of people who do feel that way, but I don't think that that's the average healthy human being reaction. I think when like Richard is talking about failing multiple times, uh, we're supposed to have that resilience where if we try something once and it doesn't work, we should at least be able to try it a second time before we actually decide that this is a bad experience.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
and just be able to rationally, logically take apart what the problem and what the situation was and evaluate what went wrong and what was right and be able to rationally do it. The only way you can really come about figuring that out is having the experience of failing and then being able to, kind of say, okay, well, that's reliable, that's not reliable, that's questionable. You know, that kind of cognitive ability is one in which we do gain, just like a child who's learning how to walk. They go through all these different things. When I lean too far forward, boom. Then I do it this way, boom. I can just like lean against the wall and walk. Okay, now I'm starting to get a little bit more bearings. But it is it's a trial and error kind of thing where you're collecting more data, and that's how our mind works, and that's what we've got to expect of ourselves. Go ahead.
So where does it get to a point where doing that type of natural learning becomes like shameful? At
Well,
what point did it become shameful?
that's where I think the whole engineered adolescence came along.
It's a school system though, because they grade you and they label like, oh, you're a bad student.
And I think in just the parenting practices, here's my theory. I think there was a lot of trauma that was unresolved in like my parents' generation, maybe y'all's parents' generation. And when you have kids who are acting out and then adults who have handled their trauma, supposedly, um, there's a disconnect of communication there. The parents don't understand what's going on, and the children have no way to express it. Um, it just perpetuates this idea that every time you try to address this situation, which the only way a child knows how to address it is lashing out, yelling, screaming, crying, being upset with you. And when that evokes a negative reaction because it's unseemly, you eventually just stop going and doing that.
Then you keep it inside, and then you learn how to not express your emotions. And the older you get, and the more you're into the system that doesn't give you any positive ways of expressing your emotions, the more those things get stuck in you, and they express in your face, they express in your movement, they express in everything you do, in everyone who you are. So it takes like a conscious effort of learning how to be creative, how to express those things that eventually became you, right?
And when you do this, when you kind of like recover the person that you were, or you figure out what things worked and didn't work for you, and you try to like slough off the bad things, um, you lose. I don't want to say you lose friends, because you don't lose your friends. Your friends will stay with you, but you lose people in your life. You lose the people who don't understand that you went through an experience that you're trying to deal with and you're trying to change.
That's a good thing. Losing people is a good thing.
But
You
a
free
lot of times
yourself of
this
those people
happens
that hold
with
you back.
parents.
Yeah,
So imagine
if you lose people, it's not a bad thing.
Well, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but there is a certain amount of grief. There's grief involved with letting toxic people go out of our lives.
Yes.
And the more we try to say that, oh, you shouldn't feel bad about it, you're just denying the people who do.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you shouldn't feel bad about it. You should feel bad about it, but you should still get rid of them.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I think there's you've got to be able to evaluate people's strengths and weaknesses, and
Yeah.
sometimes they play roles in your life and those are attributed to their strengths, and so you should keep those people in there when they're playing those roles, because that's what they do well. Evaluating it on other things, I think that can go wrong.
I agree. It's really easy to have black and white thinking about that, because it's such a crucial thing, having your real support system around. But I know a lot of my clients have, let's say it's not like severe trauma. Like, your parents didn't beat the crap out of you. They didn't leave you at home for 6 days at a time. But maybe they were like low key neglectful, or they just didn't acknowledge your feelings at all. If you develop trauma from that, if you develop some issues that cause you difficulty in your life, if you were to go to them and say, I think I have something wrong with me that is directly due to the way that you raised me, but I love you so much, it's not going to go over well. You're literally triggering that other person to be like, you did something wrong to me, and now I have to fix it. And it's pointing all the blame at this other person, which they may or may not deserve. But either way, they're not prepared to handle it. So in those cases, I tell my clients, I'm like, look, you don't have to abandon your mom because she doesn't understand, or you don't have to stop talking to them. But if it is too much, if every single time you talk to them, you're feeling these things, maybe you should make up a reason. Say, you know what? I'm sick. I've been sick for like a whole month, and I just don't have the energy to pick up the phone and call. And I'll write when I feel comfortable. I've had to do it with a lot of my family. Part of my family's been great, but the other half, I'm like, I don't need this. I can't handle it. And but I also know that trying to say something and say that to them and explain why I'm kind of like distancing myself is going to cause issues.
So that's where a third person comes in real handy too. Someone that understands the situation and can be trusted by both parties to really kind of create another circumstance.
Yeah.
But with that said, we have really run out of time, and this discussion has gone on so well that I've been just kind of, I don't want to stop. It seems to be going so well. So with that said, though, we have definitely run out of time. I think these 10 distortions are certainly something the audience should really take a look at as far as a list, and really kind of realize that, man, there's a lot of baggage out there that a lot of people are dealing with, and just kind of step back and think about, wow, if all those people out there have got baggage, maybe I've got some too, and maybe I should be a little bit easier on myself and easier on other people as far as making judgments about who they are and what's going on. And by doing that alone, I think we can kind of make the world a much more peaceful place. But Thursday's show, does anybody want to talk about Thursday's show and what we're going to do? The title of it is Tricked into Lying to Yourself.
Yeah, it'll be more about baggage all the time.
Well, honestly, the book that Willow suggested that we offered for us to read and listen to, a book called the body keeps the score. I spent a little bit of time with this week, and oh my goodness, this thing has got a lot of stuff that people should be better informed about, because man, our psychology really does affect a lot of our lives. It definitely supports a lot of industries that are out there in the world that probably shouldn't be where they are today, making billions of dollars.
That's the very core of psychosomatic therapy, is that analysis of what we store, the emotional feelings stored in our body. Yeah. And through muscle systems and organs and all these different things.
Thanks everybody for your attention and your time. We really appreciate it. We'll be here again tomorrow, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll hope to see you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.